Okay, stream is live, so yay for that. So you guys can head off to the channel. Just trying to see if there's a way that I can get you the. Oh yeah, there's a share link right there. Copy. I'll just put the link right to today's stream right in the ADT1 channel. There you go. So you guys can just grab that link right out of the ADT1 channel, and we'll get going. Okay. So I have drawn the plan. I've got the dashed lines here for my walls over for the upper unit. I've got my sliding glass door, so here you can see how I've got my glass lines, and they overlap a little bit. I've got my line for the glass on the south, line of glass on the west, and I've just started drawing my section line on both ends of the plan. I'm going to cut my section right through the hallway. So what we're going to do is a combined elevation slash section, like you'd often see in drawings like this at this stage. So let's carry on with it here. Sorry, I just had a twist in the headset there and the cable. Okay, so other things, cabinets. When you draw your counters, it's a medium line or tending towards the light. So I really should be drawing my walls a bit heavier here, maybe not too much. But this is all still pretty good. Erase the lines inside my doorway. 1 foot dash line off the wall, 2 foot deep counter. Okay, so the graphic for the section line is a nice heavy line, you know, couple 3-4 feet long on each side of the plan, and then put on the vertical for the arrow. And I should try and make these lines the same length, so we've got symmetry with the graphic. And then I'm going to use a 45-degree arrow, so I'll take my set square, put it like so. Now I'm not going to try and do it off the point, that would be impossible. So draw one side of the arrow, and lift it up and do the other side of the arrow. And I'll try and do an arrow of exactly the same size on the other end. Now, I don't have to have any graphics about the page number or anything like that. There's only one section in our drawing set. So as soon as someone who knows about architectural drawings saw this graphic, they'd be like, oh yeah, there's a section somewhere here. I'm going to go find it. So if there were more than one section, what we would simply do is we'd put like a letter designator, which I'll do here. So this indicates that this is section AA, so we go from A to A, cutting a section through the building. Okay, now I would of course recommend that you draw some windows on the north side of the building as well. You should have a window in your washroom, right in front of the toilet, not right in front of the sink of course, because you're going to have a mirror there, and then have one window in your utility room as well. So I'm going to start drawing up my section now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this on the page, or on the board rather, and I'm just going to put my section sheet on top of it. So I just want to get this down low enough so that I can put my section page on top. I'm going to do the overlapping technique with paper. Okay, so I don't want to come down too far. I still want to be able to see the plan on the screen here. Good. Okay, so here comes the sheet for the section now. Now, all I want to be able to do is to make sure that I can still see where my walls are, because I want to see these things in elevation in the background. So I've got my kitchen, I got my walls, I got my doors, and so on. So I just want to make sure that I can still reference that stuff. Can I see through it? Yep, I can see through it. So that'll be good enough for me. And I'm just looking where the sheet's going to be on the page. That'll be fine as well. So I'm just going to make sure I have got my sheet level properly, and we'll get this thing fixed to the board. Doesn't matter, you can actually tape your section sheet to the other sheet below, because the other sheet below is fixed to the board too, so that works just fine. And if you can avoid it, great, but if not, it doesn't really matter. Especially if you're using the screen tape, because it's less likely to damage your paper. Okay, so now we're going to start doing the sections. So first thing we need to do is to think about vertically where we're going to put it on the page. So with our section, it probably is going to be the only drawing that we put on this page. So I'll try and get it centered. Just looking at what I've got on the screen here, I might end up having it just a touch lower than I would otherwise. So first of all, I'm going to draw my ground line and get my verticals up from the edges of the building. Now in this case, there's not going to be, for these lines that we pass up, I'm not going to worry about measuring this at all. I'm just going to trust that my plan is accurate. So I'm just drawing some light construction lines up to get me the edges of my building. Okay. So now I'm going to start figuring out, like vertically, where I want to have everything in this section. So I'm going to have my ground line here, and that will be on both sides of the building. And then if you folks remember, we're going to come up 8 inches from the ground to our floor. Definitely need a lot of space in your manual drafting, because not only do you need the space for the drafting board itself, you also need the space for all the other stuff that you need for drafting, all your drafting tools. Yeah, exactly, right? Then you have to take things out and put them back in, and yeah, that's crazy. Oh, that sucks. Okay, so here, there's the bottom of our container here. So our containers are 8'6" tall. So I'm going to go up to the top of the container here. Now, in reality, remember that we're having a roof deck, and that roof deck would mean there probably would be some concrete pavers and some other construction that would be put on top of it. So in reality, the height of the container might go up to 9 feet actual constructed size. But for a design section, it's fine. We'll stick with 8'6" and call it a day. So here's my construction line flying across here for 8'6". Okay, so now we're going to draw, or at least indicate where our 6-foot wide walls and ceilings are going to be. So here I'm going to get my scale out and just put the little ticks in here so I know where those are. And what I want to get into pretty quickly here is the differentiation between our cut lines and the lines in the background, where we'll be kind of doing like an interior elevation of the walls and doors. Okay. Now, what do we show for our floor? Now, the concrete that's used to support this thing on, the walls are 8-inch thick. So I'm going to show an 8-inch line on the other side. So there's 6, there's 8. Do the same over here. So an 8-inch tick, so there's 6, 7, 8 right there. Now, for the thickness of our floor, that's the bottom of the steel container here, so I'll just show that at 8 as well. I'm not going to really worry about how it's truly constructed. So I'll just pencil in some lines here. Now, normally in a constructed section, as we'll see later on in the course, where the walls get to the floor, we would normally see a line because it's a different material. So we might have wood frame walls going down to a concrete floor. But here, we're not going to worry about that, except for the fact that we've got our glass, and on the other end, we've got our door opening. So we'll talk about that in a second. So I'm going to get set up here to get ready to do the heavy lines for sectioning here. Now we've got a door on the one end. Now I don't know what ended up for you folks in plan. I found that the biggest door I could put on the end is about 2'6". You still want little returns here from the wall coming from the washroom and from the exterior wall, just so you can get a little bit of a door frame in there. So 2 feet, if you drew it at 2 feet, that's fine as well. It's a little bit small for getting in and out of a house, so I made it 2'6", tried to make the door as big as I could with the space that I had. Now, door height. This is only going to matter when you start drawing your elevations and your section. We're going to assume 6'8". That's the industry standard for your everyday residential doors. You can get doors that are 7 feet tall. That's pretty common, and also like even taller, like 8 feet tall for a fancy house. Okay, so there's 6'8" on the one end. On the other side, I'm just going to drop it down a little bit here for a little header just above the glass. So it's, I mean, you could even make it go straight across from your ceiling. So this is our showing where our section lines are going to be. So I'm going to do them really heavy right now so you guys can see what we're after here. So all these lines are going to be heavy lines. These lines are actually normally heavier on my sheet. I'm pushing hard enough down right now that if this paper was completely dry, these line weights would be very heavy. But it's just because the paper is damp, of course, because it's raining like crazy. I can actually feel a slight mist on me because I guess it's windborne, right? So the rain is kind of splattering somewhere and then being wafted in and landing on me. I'm just realizing it probably was not wise to be wearing a t-shirt right now, but yeah, I know. I was listening to it and I was like, I thought like they were maybe shunting train cars somewhere like close by. Well, no, because it was so regular, right? Like I was like, oh, there it is again, and there it is again. I'm like, you don't get thunder that often. It was like you could time it. Oh, no kidding. Oh, the prairies. The prairies are epic. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, for sure. And if you guys know, back in the '80s, there was um, a tornado in Edmonton, big one. A few people got killed, and guess where the tornado went? Trailer park, right? Tornadoes they aim for trailer parks, right? We know that that's how they work. So I was there the day before, and the clouds were like this weird yellow-green with little bowls coming from the bottom, like the bottom of the clouds were bubbling, and I was like, that looks evil. So I was there the day before. So the next day we were out visiting some other relatives in Barhead. And I mean, you could have been in lots of places in Edmonton and have been safe. You'd have only had to have been in this one trailer park to you know, get the oxygen habit kicked. But yeah, yeah, that was something. So here's my there's my section lines there. So walls on each end, my slab 8 inches thick, 8, 8, 8. And then up here 6, 6, 6. I got my heavy line going down for the glass. Over here, I've got my door, and I've drawn a line about 2 inches apart for the front and back side of the door. So that's done. So the next thing we need to do is the line here at the corner for this wall, which I will project upwards. Yes. Yep. We've got the ground 8 inches lower than the floor on each side. Oh, because these. Oh, over here? Okay, so that's the header. So that's the header above the window. So there's going to be some structure above the window of some depth. I don't know what. It is unlikely that 6 inches of structure thickness would be enough to support the weight of the building above the glass. So we put these little headers in there for strength. And you can see here, we know our door is 6 foot 8 inches tall. So that's why the wall lines come down here. But on this side, there's usually a little return down from the ceiling. In most cases, especially this case where we've got a fairly thin structure at the top, and there's probably 6 or 8 inches of steel anyway as a header on the top of the container. I don't have one handy, so I don't know the dimensions of that. So that is my lower unit section. Now I've got to go section my upper unit. So I'm going to grab my scale here. And so I'm going to go up. I keep hitting the headset on my little gantry that holds my camera. So annoying. Okay, so there's 8'6" for the height. And then from yesterday, our unit width, I think, is 8'2". Yep. So 8 feet there, plus 2 inches. So I'm just going to sketch out these lines here fairly lightly. Now, for those of you who were wanting to do your arrangement of your units on an angle, this is where things are going to get really funky because I'll put a piece of trace paper down in a second just so we can talk about those more advanced situations here, because that's going to be a question that's going to come up, I'm sure. And when you're doing your elevations as well, if the upper unit is not orthogonal to the lower one. I'm just double checking my measurement here. It doesn't look like it's tall enough. Okay, it is. Oh, seriously. 8'6". There's 0. There's 8. Huh, okay. You look at a measurement and you think, that can't be it. And then you go and look at it again and it's like, yep, that's it. So here I'm even using my 1/8" scale just because it's handy. And I'll use this to measure off my 6-inch walls. There's my 6-inch ceiling. Okay, now I'm not sure what is on my top floor. I'm going to assume that I have a 3-foot corridor in the background, and that you'll see the wall for that I'm going to draw up in a second. Now, from the first handout that I gave you, it's going to mention our clear ceiling height. So if you remember, it was 7'6". So what we're going to have up here, there's going to be a thickness of the floor of the upper unit that sits on top of the unit below. And so I'm going to measure off 7'6" for a ceiling. So there's 7 feet on a quarter scale. And, oh no, we're there. This is why I feel like I'm not getting my proper 8'6", less 6 is 8. So that should be at least 8 foot there. And then there's, oh right, 7 foot, 7'6". That's correct. So, draw this line in. So what I actually should do, and I will do this so we make this a true design style section, is that we really show for the section as we cut through the building as few lines as possible. It's a really clean document that if you guys ever look inside a Canadian Architect or Architectural Record or any one of these different publications, you'll see these design sections that are done for like finished projects, and they show this to other architects. And so it's kind of funny in these magazines, the sections that they show in these fancy schmancy architectural magazines, the sections are as simple as you could imagine. Like they're super simple, and it's cool because it simplifies the building down to its basic elements, the space that it encompasses. So what would happen in a situation like this is that we would erase this entire line like so. I'll get the eraser shield on over here, and I'll clean up this last little bit. Okay, and then I'll come back and thicken up this floor line. Like that. Okay, so now there would be my 3-foot corridor upstairs going into that that one bedroom at the end of the hall. So I am going to show, there's my 3-foot corridor, so there'll be a line coming up here. There would be a 2-foot door that goes into that room, which I would see because this is, again, like a slash elevation section. I'm going to draw those lines there, so I'm going to put my 6'8" door up there, and I'm just going to show it in start drawing that up here for my section. So I'm going to get my construction lines put up here. There's that one, and that one. And then this line goes floor to ceiling because it's the beginning of the hallway. So now I'll put in my door. Okay, so now, doors, I won't bother with the other doors. Those are pretty straightforward. The windows in this thing, square corners, you won't be doing rounded corners like we did in that other exercise. The other exercise was just to torture you with your compasses. And that was the only goal of that exercise. So now we're going to deal with our kitchen counters. So we've got kitchen counters very faintly down here. You can just barely see them on the screen. So I've got, I think I put down 8 feet of counters, if I recall correctly. 8 to 10 feet would be sufficient for this project. So here's 8 feet there. So I really don't need to measure the length of this. I can just project a line upwards from the kitchen. So now we need to talk about our kitchen cabinets. So your lowers in a kitchen are 3 feet high, as opposed to a desk, which is 30 inches high. So we're going to be talking about standard dimensions of architectural features moving forwards. So 3 feet for our lower cabinets, and then we have a 1'6" gap between the uppers and the lowers. So there's the gap there. And then our upper cabinets are 2'6". Now you could make the cabinets so they go right up to the ceiling, and that would be fine. But I'm going to draw mine as 2'6". So there's the line for that. So now I'm going to put my square here right at the end of my cabinets. Just lightly draw the line up. And now I'm going to draw my horizontals over. There we go. Now, as for a sink, I just broke the lead. There would be a sink here, and of course, above the sink, we wouldn't worry about having an upper cabinet, but I'm not going to put that on us today. In fact, I'd even ask you to draw a sink in the plans. If you wanted to, a 20-inch circle would do that. No, not 20, 18-inch circle. But again, don't worry about it. Okay, so with your lower cabinets, you'll have an 1.5-inch second line for the underside of the counter. So that's what you see there. And then we'll put in the rest of the lines here for our upper and lower cabinets. Now, of course, with cabinets, often we would show the lines for each particular set of cabinets in the set. So I'm just going to bang out some stuff here. I'm not going to be too fussy about what I'm doing here. So I'm going to do a set of 18-inch cabinets, a set of 2-foot cabinets, 2 sets of 2-foot cabinets here. And then 1'6" and 1 foot. Now, some other things about cabinets that we could talk about, so you know how they are constructed. There's of course, there's the piece at the bottom that your foot goes into. Is called the kick. It is 4 inches high. So there will be a little line here at the 4-inch mark for the kick. Now, and sometimes in super modern cabinet designs, they don't even bother with the kick. But I'm going to put the kick in there. So that's just so you don't always smash your foot into the cabinets anytime that you're working there. So I'm going to put my lines in here. Yes, both correct. So there is no, they don't draw the kick because they're not going to build it. So it means that every time you come up to the cabinets, you just, yeah, no, the kick is good. But, you know, research Frank Lloyd Wright's chairs. So the back of his chairs that he designed for his houses, they came up, I kid you not, at 90 degrees from the seat. 90 degrees. Even he said his chairs were uncomfortable. Yeah. So because they had geometric perfection as far as he was concerned. There is a lot of pretentiousness in architecture, right? That's a prime example. And yes, yeah, you guys go have a look at Frank Lloyd Wright's chairs. They're kind of it's a bit of a running gag, but you know, and if you could actually get one of his chairs that came from his houses, I mean, they're worth thousands of dollars each. Like the whole thing is just out of control, you know. I mean, from a historical perspective, yeah, it's cool. Nope. Yes. Yeah, the Taliesin project, that was sort of an architect's retreat, and he would take his acolytes with him. Who would they came to him in his later years when he began to mentor other architects who wanted to be Frank Lloyd Wright clones. So, um, and so people would come to him, like architects who presumably had finished getting their degrees, and they'd come to get trained by the master. The Falling Water House, which you folks may have heard of, and I showed it to you folks, his most famous house. The story is told that he had the design drawings not completed, and he was due to meet with the client that day. They got a call in the morning. The client said, "I am coming to see your design." Frank started drawing those plans in the morning, and without erasing anything, without moving a line, his employees watched in astonishment as he drew the entire plan in one sitting without stopping completely. He had it all in his head. And yeah, he would have been in his 60s. Yeah. So, well, the good news, folks, is like I said, not only does architecture contribute to longevity uh, for most people, it also there's very few architects who, for whatever reason, suffer from any kind of neurological degeneration in their elder years. So you don't see a whole lot of architects who have Alzheimer's. Uh, yeah, exactly, right? So you might be broke, but you'll still have your brains. They are content. Yes. Oh, that's great. Quote of the day. Ayana for the win. So here is kind of what our section is going to look like, folks. So just even while we were discussing, I put it together. So we've got our doors and elevation. Now, if you want to be fancy about it, there's a 3-inch trim that goes around the doors, just to kind of make it look like they're not just a door that's sitting there, but there's actually um, something around it. So I'll grab my here and just sort of indicate that, give it a little bit more of a finished appearance. Um, Good drafters in their day, they would not be measuring the 3-inch trim. They would know intuitively what the gap was that they need to draw for these lines, and they could draw you parallel 3-inch lines at 1/4 inch to a foot all day long, no scale required. Like no, because typically 1/4 inch was the was standard scale, so they knew the spacing of lines. Some of them could even draw up the parallel lines for walls with that kind of a capacity. So there's our door trim around the doors. Yes. So when we get to dealing with CAD and then once we get into 3D with Revit, um, the most common architectural scale for houses, like 95% of houses are done at 1/4 inch to a foot, and if they're not done at 1/4 inch to a foot, it's because the house is too big to fit on a sheet at that scale. Yeah. So yes, or some other crazy scale like 3/16 of an inch to a foot. Yeah, and on occasion they'll do metric depending on the client or the builder. So I think I've done 2 metric houses. Okay, so there's a heavy ground line on each end, and there's the section. So you don't even need to label the rooms in the section. You don't need to hatch it. Get rid of as many lines as you possibly can. Focus on making a heavier line for where you section through the building, and then lighter lines for the stuff in the background. So I kind of focused on making the wall line a little bit heavier than my cabinet lines in the background. So yeah, that's basically it. So let's talk about what happens if you've got something that is off kilter. To do the twist, I'm just looking for my black. Oh, there it is. Okay, so you decided to do your lower unit, and then you decided to do your upper unit on like a bit of an angle, and I'll sort of have it offset here as well. So I would certainly try and keep it to a rational angle, like an increment of 10 degrees or something like that, or do 30 degrees. You know, sanity is precious. So now the thing is that when, for instance, if we cut our section through this thing, yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. So what's going to happen is, of course, as we come through the plan and we hit our exterior wall foreshortening. So what's going to happen, of course, now, remember, we're only going to see things from the section line and behind. Now, our walls here are 6 inches apart. And same here, just drawing them where they intersect the section line. So what's going to happen, of course, is when you cut your section through, you are going to have to project those lines upward, and they're going to be wider than 6 inches where you cut through it, right? So where your section line hits the outside face of that 6-inch wall, draw a line up. Where that section line hits the inside face, draw a line up. So you're going to be cutting through all these different weird spots. So one of the things that you can do to rationalize the section and make it less crazy is that you can pretend that when your section, you know, if this ends up cutting through, say, a bedroom, is that you can show the outside walls with this effect of it'll be more than it'll be more than 6 inches if you're angled at more than 90 degrees. So of course at 90 degrees it's 6 inches, then it becomes more and 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 more, and eventually it would become infinite. So the more parallel you are to the unit below, you know, the wider your walls will appear in section. But if you want, you can kind of assume that the section is cutting through an open area upstairs, and then you can fake out showing the 3-foot corridor like I did up here and show the door in the background. So really what's we're kind of saying is that the section does is that it comes across, goes perpendicular across the unit, and then out the other side. So we call that like a jogged section, if you remember back when we did the sectioning in mechanical. But with mechanical sections, of course, they just go straight across. But with the architectural section, we're going to hit the side of the container, go across perpendicularly and out the other side, so the stuff that you draw inside is going to make sense. Otherwise, everything's going to get wacky looking on the inside, and yeah, it'd be good to not go there. Now, with the elevations, of course, as you guys draw your windows put them in the plans, when you project, so here, I'm going to use red so it's a little easy to see. So say you've got windows at the locations I'm showing here. I hear a chicken. I'm just trying to keep the chicken off the deck because then they come up here and they, oh yeah, there is one. Hey, come on, get out of here. Beat it. Yo, come on, go away, go away. Go away. There we go. Now it's complaining. Yeah, it wants to be up here and stay dry on the deck, right? It's raining outside, so the free-range chickens want to come up and free range and poop on the deck. No, thank you. Yeah, no, it's a unionized chicken. So, Yes, they do. They've got a coop in the back. So they're actually, uh, if they were unionized, they'd have absolutely nothing to complain about. They're paid really well. They get vacation. They get 2 weeks every year. Actually, they get 4. I got one chicken that just like it gets dark. I don't lay eggs. I'm like, okay, fine. So so what you do here with your windows when you're doing your elevations, of course, is you're going to project those lines upwards. So yes, you're going to get that foreshortening effect. The distance between the openings on your windows is going to be decreased. The foreshortening effect is definitely going to happen. So with the elevations, it's actually not so hard. It's the section that's a bit trickier. So just keep that in mind. So that simplified process of showing the true thickness of your walls when cutting through it in the section, the exterior walls, but then take your section and pretend to bend it inside, and then when you get to the other wall, so it's kind of like what is happening here. It's like we get to the wall, and then we come down here, straight across and out to the other side. So if any of you guys have questions about that, I'll walk you through it as you get going. You know what I really have loved about this? I was a little concerned that, you know, like in a classroom environment, you guys can look at each other's work and wander around from board to board and see all the crazy stuff that, hey, come on, get out of here. Get. Um, and so you'd be able to see each other's work. I really love that you guys are posting pictures of your work and sticking them up on the Discord so that everybody can see what's going on. So keep that happening. And so you crazy sods who are doing the rotated plan of the upper unit, yeah, get those out there. So we want to A, help you, and B, admire you for your insanity. So it's and I mean from an architectural perspective, this kind of um, breaking out of the mold. So here, this is kind of outside of the box space planning. It's beautiful, and it creates like a tension when you're on the site. Not that a tension that would create anxiety, but what they call architectural tension, or that's breaking up the 90-degree angle. And it's just such a pleasure to be around a construction like that, because it's definitely got an art to it that you can respect. And often when you build on a certain site, the geometry of the site itself can be inspiring. If you are building right on rock, you know, you've got all the shapes of the rock, and they tend to break and split and come out at angles. And if you look even, you know, at Mount Shiam and the geometry of the mountains in the area, uh, they have you know, they tend to slope upwards, and then the form breaks off, and then it continues up, and then breaks off, and sometimes you've got this rhythm of breakage, and sometimes they're at different angles, right? So if you're a geologist and you're talking about, you know, the rock um, behavior in the mountains, it's called tectonics. And when that kind of break in form is used in architecture, it's also called tectonics. So the idea of taking the original straight line or the 90-degree angle and then breaking it, such as you would see in nature with rock, is a very common design inspiration. So I definitely encourage you folks, any of you who are thinking about doing it, you're more than welcome to do so. The section is the toughest part to sort out, but the rest of it will be very interesting. So yeah, definitely, if you want to go that direction, I will help you get there. Okay, so I'm going to